Now let's move on to today's perspective. I've got a very, very fundamental question to ask of you now. What makes you, you? And I don't mean your parents. I mean what drives you morally, politically. What makes you like some things and dislike others? What shapes how you behave or perhaps misbehave? Well, I hope today my guest will provide us with the answer. He's the author of the book The Status Game, also a major contributor to many British newspapers and magazines. He's reported from Africa, Colombia and remote Australia. He's also been named New Journalist of the Year and he's won a National Press Club Award for Excellence as well. Somehow he's managed to find the time to talk to us as well on the programme. Will Storr, thanks very much for joining us today. Obvious first question then, what does make us who we are? I expect the clue is in the title of your book, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, humans have evolved to kind of crave status, and we've been doing that for tens of thousands of years. And the argument of the book is this desire we have to be kind of respected, valued, and to receive esteem is a fundamental driver of the human condition and a fundamental part of our identity.
You think everyone craves status? Aren't some people happy the way they are?
Yeah, I mean that's what the latest scientific research indicates. It's a fundamental driver, and this cuts across class, age, race, gender. Everywhere you look, people are very interested in their rank. But I think the important thing to think is that when we're talking about status, we're not saying that everybody wants to be, Michelle Obama or the King of Thailand. It's much more about the esteem and respect of your kind of immediate peer group. Of course, some people want, super status, but lots of people are, perfectly content with the respect and esteem of the people around them. But that's still, status.
I mean, yeah, because otherwise it's a bit sad, isn't it? If all we're after is effectively power.
No, I mean, well, status isn't power. Power is about the ability to control people. Status is, as I say, is about respect and esteem. And actually, you can see it that way. But I see it quite positively. Really, it's quite incredible for me that we're a species that has evolved a mechanism for automatically rewarding ourselves and other people when we're morally good, for example. When we do something selfless or generous, we feel good about ourselves. And people tell us we're amazing and great and wonderful. So that's a really fantastic thing. The fact that we make moral superstars of everyone from, Mother Teresa to Gandhi to the people who created the, AstraZeneca vaccine. That's the best part of human nature, that we celebrate people like this.
And how does that link in with what else affects us? I mean, obviously, there's all sorts of other things, like inevitably, as I joked about in the beginning, our parents, but also people around us, the areas we're growing up in, things that other people like, that obviously is going to influence the way we turn out as well.
Yeah, well, parents is obviously important, but at least as important, and some psychologists believe, parents are important because they give us our genes, which point us in certain directions. But when we leave the home, of course, we join our peer groups, and our peer groups are extremely influential in who we become. And those peer groups are, what I term as status games. They're coalitions of like-minded people that all agree the symbols that signify what's good, what's bad, how do good people dress and how do bad people dress? What do good people believe and how do bad people believe? So these are status games, and these are extremely important. When we leave the nest and join schools and universities, it's these peer groups that have a huge influence over who we are. And then when we go out into the world, jobs, corporations are status games, political groups are status games, religious groups are status games. All these groups are coalitions of like-minded people who are working out, how are we awarding status in our group and how are we removing it? And it's those kind of games in inverted commas that define adult human life.
And where do you think the desire for status then actually comes from?
Well, it comes from very, very deep in our evolutionary history. I mean, before we even were human, we were competing for status with dominance, with violence and aggression, as many animals do. And if not, and then when we settled down tens of thousands of years ago, violence and coercion, they're not great to have around if you're living in campsites and living in settled communities. So we started competing with prestige, and prestige is about, we award prestige to people who prove themselves useful to the group. So there are two ways of earning prestige. One way is virtue, we're generous, we're kind, we're courageous in battle, or we're good at enforcing the rules of the group. Those people earn prestige. But also successful people who are skillful, who are great hunters, great storytellers, great honey finders. These people also earn prestige. And in the human groups we evolved in, the more status that you earned, the better food you got, the safer your sleeping sites, the greater your choice of mates. So, those basic Darwinian aims of survival and reproduction are attached to status. The more status we earned, the greater our chances were survival and reproduction. So that's a very basic rule in the human brain. Go for status, and everything else is going to get better. And that's still there today. And, if you look at the world today, it's like it was tens of thousands of years ago. Dominance, virtue, and success are the three ways that people get status in the modern world.
And what about you, yourself, Will? I mean, where does the idea about this book come from? Because I read out some of the other things you do, more journalistic, perhaps, some of the other work that you do. I mean, where does this fit in with what else you've been doing, if you like?
Well, this just comes out of previous books, really. I think most of my work is there's an interest in basically what makes people tick. Why are humans like as they are? That's been the great pursuit of my writing career.
And is that a quest? I mean, not necessarily a personal quest, but a quest to answer the question about what makes us happy as well.
Well, it's a personal question in a way. I'm an atheist that was brought up in a very, very strict kind of Catholic household. And so I was raised by two, intelligent parents who nevertheless believed in heaven and the literal existence of God, of the devil. So even as a teenager, I just was baffled by this. It was like, how can you believe this? And then they were looking at me saying, how can you not believe this? It has always been a bit of a personal question to me to understand what human irrationality, and including my own irrationality. I'm not sitting here saying that I'm some superstar of clear thinking. We're all irrational. So it's understanding my own biases and prejudices and stresses and concerns as well.
And have you been able to come to terms with them as well? I mean, do they understand your work? Have they understood your work?
They are. I think they're proud of me, but they're not fans because of the way I write about religion. In this book, I write that religion is a status game, that it's just another game that we play to, we decide what kind of behaviors and beliefs signify high success and low success. So as Catholics, my parents kind of look down their noses rather at Protestants, and that is a status situation. They think they're superior because they're Catholics. So they won't appreciate that kind of observation.
Well, it's great to hear about your book. Great to hear about your own personal circumstances as well, which obviously fit neatly into where the idea comes from as well. Thanks very much, Will Storr, author there of The Status Game on France 24, joining us live from the UK. Let's have a look at the main news headlines if you're just tuning in on Live from Paris. Joe Biden says that America is counting on voters in California not to force a recall election for Governor Gavin Newsom. Tuesday, the last day of voting in a ballot closely watched ahead of the US midterm elections. And four-day talks beginning in Guinea today between the ruling junta, who staged this month's coup, and political, business, religious and civil leaders to forge a way back into democracy.